Hi everybody, I'm going to recite some lines from Orlando Furioso, written by Ludovico Ariosto. And the part I'm going to recite is from Cantos 23 and 24, which describe Orlando's great madness. So the part I'm going to read is when Ariosto pauses from his story about Orlando's madness and kind of interjects his own words and thoughts on it. So here are the lines. If you have put your foot in the birdlime spread by Cupid, try to pull it out and take care not to catch your wing in it too. Love, in the universal opinion of wise men, is nothing but madness. Though not everyone goes raving mad like Orlando, love's folly shows itself in other ways. What clearer sign of lunacy than to lose your own self through pining for another? The effects vary, but the madness which promotes them is always the same. It is like a great forest into which those who venture must perforce lose their way. One here, another there, one and all go off the track. I think these lines are really interesting for a couple of reasons. Well, the whole passage is interesting, especially when he talks about what other people think he would say and his responses to them, which is that yes, love has affected him, but he's trying not to let it anymore. He's trying to rid himself of this horrible disease or sickness, which is love. But these words are interesting because he's saying, basically, he's saying, look at Orlando, look at this crazy madness he's experiencing, and try not to be like him. Just don't don't feel love, which I think is really interesting because the first part of uh, of the poem we see Orlando and his craziness, but then in the second, like Cantos 25, when we meet uh, Fior, Fiordispina and her love for Bradamant, we see a whole different side of love. We see it really whimsical and kind of humorous, light love. That's kind of charming and funny. But in this first part, we see the jealousy and the rage and the darker side of love. But a couple interesting things I thought about these cantos are that uh, let's see. Well, in the part that I read, Riostos, he says, "It is like a great forest into which those who venture must perforce lose their way." I feel like that metaphor of a forest or of nature is ongoing throughout these cantos. At the very beginning, Orlando enters into a beautiful nature scene. It's described as having a crystal clear lake and a beautiful meadow of colorful flowers. It's the most peaceful, welcoming place where shepherds run around naked and there's a nice breeze. And is a Orlando felt no discomfort for all that he was wearing breastplate, helmet, and shield. He feels completely at ease at the beginning, and that's his whole mindset, his emotions, his temperament. They're all at ease. But once he sees the inscriptions and he realizes that the girl he loves is in love with another man, he loses it. He starts throwing rocks into the water and ripping up trees, and you get these interesting lines. The spring, too, which had been so clear and pure, was scarcely safer from wrath such as his. Branches, stumps, and boughs, stones, and clods he kept hurling into the lovely waters until he so clouded them from surface to bottom that they were clear and pure never again. And after that line, he quickly descends into madness. And I feel like that the spring that was so clear is now cloudy, and that's his mind, that's his emotions. He's clouded. His judgment is clouded, his heart, everything, and he becomes wild and crazy from it. Another interesting line is the helmet landed here, the shield there, more pieces of armor further off, the breastplate further still, arms and armor all found their resting place here and there about the wood. So after he starts raging and getting mad, he starts stripping down and taking off his armor. And this is really significant because I feel like the armor symbolizes his knighthood. It symbolizes his duty, his civility and chivalry. And, he was so comfortable with it at the beginning of the canto, but now that he's descending into madness, it's uncomfortable. He wants it off and he throws it. It becomes part of the wood. He becomes part of the wood, a force of nature. And he becomes wild and untamed and bestial. I think that he literally became a part of like the forest, and he became like a wildfire or some destructive force that just destroys everything in its path. It's really interesting, these cantos, and Ariosto, he's just warning us that life's could be a little easier without love, but I don't think he truly means it. I think he's just looking at it from one perspective, from Orlando's perspective during this part of the poem. Thank you guys. Bye.